Hey witches, Tiffany here on Bewitching.Bemused. Today we're going to talk about using graveyard dirt in spell work, where to get it, the best way to collect it, and what it can be used for. I discussed this a little bit in my live stream because I did have a question regarding collecting dirt in just a graveyard versus over, from an actual grave, but I figured it was worthy of its own video. So I thought I would just go ahead and elaborate on what I said in the live stream this past Sunday. But in addition to that, I wanted to add in a couple other types of dirt that you can use in witchcraft. So some people, when they see graveyard dirt listed as an ingredient in a spell, they get a little squeamish because it's, kind of corresponds with death. People assume like, oh, this is only for negative magic, but it's really not true. In fact, the use of graveyard dirt in magic dates back pretty far and has been known to be used in several different types of traditions, cultures, and styles. Traditional witchcraft, hoodoo, Appalachian folk magic, and it's even been found in very, very old European grimoires. So what can it be used for? Well, just because something is associated with death, much like the death card in tarot, it doesn't mean it's automatically a bad thing. You can use graveyard dirt or really anything that can be foraged at a cemetery, although don't start grabbing flowers off of people's graves because that'd just be really rude. But these items from a graveyard have many different correspondences related to death. You can use it in a spell for dealing with grief or facing death, acceptance of that part of the natural life cycle. You can use it for spells to help you let go, say goodbye to something, receive closure, or killing negative things such as anxiety, self-doubt, insecurities, regrets, fears. You can also use it in banishing spells, protection spells, and of course during Samhain rituals or in honoring a deceased loved one. With that said, I did also want to say that you don't just have to use graveyard dirt. Keep in mind, dirt is one of the easiest ingredients to get your hands on, and it's absolutely free. There's also a never-ending, abundant amount of correspondences that you can utilize dirt for in your spell work. So if you want to do a money spell or you're going through financial hardships, get dirt directly from the site of a bank or financial institution. If you're having some legal trouble or you want to seek justice, get it from a courthouse. If you want to strengthen the bond of any kind of relationship, go grab some dirt from, the place you first met, the place you first fell in love, where you got married. Those are just a few examples. I mean, I'm sure you can think of more, so just dirt is really easy to play with in witchcraft. And in fact, I got one really good idea from Velma Nightshade from the Witches Brouhaha podcast. When she got married, she and her fiance both went to their childhood homes that they grew up in and got some dirt. And then at their new home that they moved into together, or I think she's already living there, doesn't matter. They put the dirt in a hole and then they planted a tree over it. And I just thought that was lovely, and I'm totally gonna steal that idea when Mikey and I get married. But of course, scooping up some dirt from, a bank, it's a lot easier than at a graveyard because nobody else is there. If somebody might see you and think that, okay, that's a little weird, but it's not as weird. It doesn't come across as weird as it does if you're at an actual graveyard. Not to mention, a graveyard those are real people's resting places. They are deceased, yes, but so how do you go about collecting it respectfully? Well, first of all, keep in mind that it doesn't have to come directly from a grave. You can enhance it by taking it directly from a grave, which I'll get to in a second, but it can just in general be from the graveyard. And in fact, you can think of ways to utilize different correspondences in this. If you have some sort of blockage or barrier that you are going to do a spell to get rid of that roadblock, take it directly from the gate. I talked about this in live stream. That's a great way to combine two correspondences. You have a literal gate that you are taking this dirt from, but you're also taking it from a graveyard. You're signifying death to this roadblock. But like I mentioned, taking it from an actual grave can be a bit more beneficial because, again, you're adding an extra correspondence to whatever working that you're doing. You are essentially going to this grave and utilizing part of that person's essence in your spell. So if you're doing a spell for strength, take it from the grave of a soldier. Again, a legal battle. Take it from the grave of a lawyer. Justice, go to a judge. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you have a bit of writer's block or you're lacking in inspiration. Well, the correspondence with death would work towards getting rid of that blockage. And you could also take it from the grave of a successful, talented artist, writer, painter, whatever it is, to enhance that you are getting rid of this specific blockage so you can reignite your inspiration. But this does get a little tricky because, like I said, literal people are buried in there. So first thing I recommend is making sure you're getting it from the grave of somebody that you already knew, you knew when they were still alive, or you at the very least know of. Doing a spell for justice, taking grave from the dirt of you looked it up, it's some judge that worked and lived in the area. What if he was corrupt? If you're taking dirt from the grave of a corrupt judge, that's not really gonna lead to justice because he didn't obviously care about justice when he was alive. So just really take a moment to stop and consider who you're taking it from, what you know about them. And, if you're going to the grave of a family member, you don't want to go to your grandmother's grave who disowned your father and you never met her in your whole life, because there's some family tension there. You also have to be careful that you're not taking it from the grave of somebody who is adamantly against witchcraft. Working with graveyard dirt is not quite the same thing as working with spirits, where the spirits are helping you manifest things sort of in the way that a deity would. But you still essentially want to ask for their blessing, because if they don't give it, you've just sort of corrupted that ingredient that you've collected. So if you go to the grave of somebody who was very, very Christian and definitely believed that witchcraft was evil because the Bible says so, they're not gonna like that. You are taking something from them to use in something that they were adamantly against. And that goes into my next point. Ask for permission first. This person, while they were alive, didn't necessarily need to be a magic practitioner. They didn't necessarily need to believe in it. So don't worry about that so much, but you still want to communicate with them. Tell them what it's for. Tell them what your intention is for the spell that you're going to be using it for. Just be honest, kind of plead your case. If you feel any uneasiness, any foreboding, do not take it. It's just a sign that they're telling you, no, I don't want anything to do with this. Do not take this from me. So just respect that. And honestly, it might take a few times of visiting their gravesite to get kind of a solid reading on that. Make sure you bring something to hold it in. Of course, a little Tupperware or a jar or a plastic, Ziploc bag. The easiest way to collect it, especially without looking like a total weirdo, but who cares if you do, is to plant something at their actual gravesite. So when you scoop up some soil, just kind of bag some of it away so nobody notices, and then plant something there. But do make sure that that graveyard allows that sort of thing, because not all of them do. Otherwise, if you're worried you're gonna get judged for it, just wait until nobody else is around. And of course, if you like working with astrology, if you like working with the different days of the week or sacred numbers when it comes to times of day or where the sun is or, moon phases, you can always factor that into the collecting process, but it's not entirely necessary. Finally, make sure you leave an offering. This could be as simple as bringing some flowers with you to leave behind. It could be cleaning up their headstone. If they've got, a bunch of leaves scattered around on their grave, maybe clean those up, push them out of the way. If you knew them personally or know enough of them to know something that they like, maybe bring that with you. Please always be environmentally conscious and don't leave food wrappers around. So finally, how do you actually use it in your spell if you're not going off of something that was pre-written? My favorite 2 words when it comes to telling people how to do magic: get creative. Obviously, you can use it in a jar or a charm bag. You can put it in a heat-safe bowl and use it to kind of, stick the candle in the middle of it, use it to hold the candle up. If you're burying your other ingredients and components in the yard or in a plant pot, you can always sprinkle some of that dirt on top of it or underneath them. Mix it into oil, ink, some other liquid that you're using, or of course, you can always fold it in with some clay. If you want to get rid of one thing and grow another, write your intention on a piece of paper, sprinkle that dirt on top of it, put the plant on top of that, or the seeds, whatever you're using, and then of course help work to grow those. The only thing I really wouldn't recommend is using it in kitchen witchery, but I think that probably goes without saying. So that's it. That's just meant to be a quick little introduction on using graveyard dirt in your craft. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, and email, and I will see you all on Sunday.